Oh, this is a bit nerve-wracking, not knowing if anyone's going to turn up. Oh, hello, we've actually got someone here, that's good. Right, well, I'm just going to start, and hopefully maybe some more folk will join in. More folk will join in as we go on. Feel free to ask any questions or get involved in any discussions through the messenger facility. So, if you don't know me already, my name's Graham. I'm an ecologist and wildlife educator. I've been involved in conservation, wildlife conservation for more years than I care to remember, but 25 years professionally, thereabouts. But before that, I've always been interested in wildlife. Right, my first memories really are earthworms. When I was about 3 or 4, I had a ride-on tractor. Actually, I don't remember the ride-on tractor at all. That ride-on tractor, I haven't a clue. I think it was yellow, but I could be wrong. There was what I do remember is the trailer, and I had the trailer, and I filled it with soil, and I kept earthworms in it. That's the first thing. I can't remember what happened to that tractor. I can't even remember ever riding on it. All I remember is the trailer, and we moved house when I was 6, 6.5 in fact, and that trailer came with us, and I had it for several years until someone who shall remain nameless but lived close by, young neighbour, went and tipped them all out, and I was devastated. Got over it though, and decided that I was going to get went to a career in conservation. Not the best paid career, I have to say, but got a career in conservation, and I actually managed it. So I've actually been doing for the past sort of actual paid employment, sort of past 23 years, actually been doing what I love. So what more can you ask for? So I've had various jobs. I've worked for Scottish Wildlife Trust, I've worked for local authority, I've worked for local record centres, I've worked for community development organisations as natural heritage field workers. So wide variety of job, but I've went freelance now, do an occasional bit of sort of survey work, which I enjoy, is quite nice, but what I really love is doing sort of educational stuff, and I do some voluntary, and I also do some paid. So last night I was paid to go and lead a bat walk, which was great, apart from the fact the bats never turned up. Prime habitat, bit in the chilly side, but there should have been bats there, and it was dry, so it's the first time ever I've never had bats turn up, at least just sort of like, just passing in a bat walk. So bit of a shame, but I was able to talk about bats, and it's been really wet here, but it's dried up a bit, so I'm hopefully going to take you out in a few minutes with the bat detector outside. But other things that I do some wildlife rescue work. I've got this is my office I'm in here, which is actually a boiler room. I don't know whether we can turn. That's the boiler there. So I'm in the boiler room, but it's my office. Through there is a garage which has a wildlife rescue sort of station that I've set up. I've got a small bankful in care at the minute. It wasn't rescued as such. I caught it in my humane trap in the kitchen. It was tiny. It was just a baby, and I came to I had a decision to make. Do I release it in the garden, but it'll just be back inside, probably the same day, or do I release it a few hundred metres away at a release site that I've got, where I release all my sort of humanely caught small mammals and that get caught in the kitchen, but then would it survive? So what I've done is I took it into care and I've brought it on. I've left it somewhere where it's in a container where it can dig away and it's got food and all that. I'll give it. I'm going to release it very soon. The other one I've got in care at the minute is Chonky. If you follow me on social media, you'll know about Chonky. She's a soprano pipistrelle bat that was catted. Basically, a cat got her. Few claw holes in the wing and also a broken bone in one of the fingers. Now, it wasn't a major broken bone, so she should be able to fly, but she's not. So I don't know whether there has been some more damage, or, which I suspect, she's just overeaten and she's living up to her name, Chonky. She's rather on the large side, so I've got her on a strict diet. I'm hoping to sort of like get her on, and if she is able to fly when she loses a bit of weight, she'll be released. If not, then I'll have to keep her over winter and I'll have to get a license. And if she's not able to be released, I'll get a license to keep her as an educational bat. So that's one thing that I do. Another thing I do, I've got a couple of wildlife projects in the go. One is trying to encourage people to look out for hedgehogs in their garden and other wildlife. I've got a few trail cams that I get people to put out in the garden, and also hedgehog tunnels, and they get some nice prints like this. I don't know whether you can see here, there's actually two lots of prints. There's big hedgehog prints, but there's also some small mammal prints. I suspect they're wood mice. Looking at them, yes, they're wood mice. You can, once you get your eye in, tell the difference between wood mice and voles. So the other major project, doing this live is taking me outside my comfort zone, and one of the things that I've been doing that for is because I just wanted this year. Last year was during lockdown. I used it to learn a few new skills, including video editing. I got a moth trap. I've been learning to ID moths. So someone just asked a question. I'll answer that in a second. So the other thing that I've done is this year is set up my wildlife year project, using sort of like skills that I've learned last year in video editing. So if you follow my wildlife year on social media, you'll also be able to follow me in YouTube and produce a weekly video. Someone said it's hard to get a right mixture of oil and paint in the tunnels. Any tips for that? Yes, in that I don't use paint. I actually use powdered graphite, basically carbon. So the vegetable oil, soy oil and carbon, and basically mix it up until it's at a thickness that you can paint it on. It's still quite thick and gloopy, but not too thick that it's just all sort of like thinging up. And it works for me. There's no sort of like, I've not got any sort of like recipe, but it's just, that's what I use, vegetable oil and powdered graphite, and just mix it in. So Ethan Wilson, I know that young man. If you live in the city, what wildlife can you expect to experience? Well, you will see so you will see a wide variety. Obviously, lots of birds. You're up in Dundee, as I know. So you'll get lots of city wildlife up there. Pigeons. I know, sort of like, you'll get, sort of like, if you look at just about any flat ledge where there's availability in a city, you'll almost certainly see pigeons nesting. Any flat roofs as well, you also get gulls. But further down the ground, you always get, if you find somewhere where there's some nice flowers, you'll find some nice pollinators, hopefully. Maybe not as much out in the country, but you never know. And also small mammals, you'll find, cities are great for rats, but you also find things, mice there, not just house mice though. Wood mice are also known as field mice, but basically they could be called anywhere mice. Wood mice turn up anywhere, literally. So yeah, so there's a good chance that you'll have wood mice. Difference, you can tell the difference between wood mice and house mice because wood mice has quite a brown top and white, really light coloured white, light cream belly. House mouse, on the other hand, it's grey brown pretty much all over. So house mouse is a strange creature because it's pretty widespread, but maybe not as common as some people think. The one of the places I've seen house mice, for instance, is the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh. I got a couple of owl pellets at a BioBlitz I was doing there, and I started taking them apart, and I found a mouse skull, and I took out the teeth and counted the holes in it, and it was a house mouse. And it's sort of like, oh wait there, what's doing in the Botanic Gardens? Why is there so many house mice? Turns out, underneath the greenhouses in the Royal Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh is basically just a haven for house mice, and they come out at night into the gardens to forage, and the local tawny owls feed on them, cough up the pellets, and the skulls turn up in there. So yeah, so you never know what you're going to find anywhere. Sometimes you'll see something in the city that you don't expect. Musselburgh, I know Musselburgh isn't probably technically a city, it's a town sort of like just to the east of Edinburgh, but I've actually seen field vole turn up on a pavement in Musselburgh. Shouldn't be able to see there. So the other thing that you'll also see in cities is bats. Bats are brilliant for sort of like, they're colonising anywhere, especially pipistrelles. They'll be all over the place. I've very rarely, after saying that I did a bat walk last night and there was no bats turned up, I very rarely go somewhere and there's not pipistrelles. Question from Eric there. Good to see you too, Eric. The lure or bait from my webcams and my tunnels with marking traps, right. Yes, I do. Basically, it just depends what I've got at hand. I keep hens, so I've always got some seed, so I'll sometimes use it. Other things, if I've got a sort of meaty dog food or cat food, I'll use it. Sort of the other ones, what other ones do we get in do I use? Oh yes, I've got some hedgehog food as well, some basic hedgehog food, and also in hedgehog tunnels. I'll show you a hedgehog tunnel in a wee while if you don't know what I'm talking about, that you get these from. Hedgehog tunnels, you can use, hedgehogs go mad for hot dogs. So cut up the hot dog, put it in the middle. Tip is put it sort of like on the end, sort of like not in the rolly bit, because when you move the tunnel, the hot dog rolls about. But the other thing sometimes that can happen is you end up with your bit of paper, and you end up the sort of like bait in the middle, then there's the ink pad, and then there's this bit of paper. You end up with this long, sort of like, looks like a snake's went out. And what's actually happened there is a mouse has been in and rolling it like a barrel and rolled it across the ink and then rolled it out here. It does sort of like it looks quite funny, and sort of, first time it happened we're going, what is that? What's caused it? Anyway, Ethan's asked another, would you expect to see many foxes? Are they more in residential areas? Basically, foxes will go anywhere where there's food. If there's people there, whether it's living there or whether it's working there, if they're leaving food behind, something that they can eat, there will be foxes there. They're definitely going to be around. And also, urban foxes are a lot more. Yes, a sausage roll indeed. Foxes are a lot more sort of brazen in the cities. I remember once friend David and his team of bat surveyors. I was out with a meal with them because I'd done some work with them over the year, and it was their end of year meal. And I went out and we were just saying cheerio, and we were standing at the cars, and this fox literally walked up the road, sort of like wandered about, sniffed about, and came up to us and literally just looked at us, and we had to move out the way for it to walk on by. It was so brazen, as I say. So what I'm going to do now is just give you a wee tour of sort of like my little area here. So I'm going to unplug this, sorry, I've got my hand in front of it, and what I'll do is I'll switch the camera around. Okay, so this is my office. I've got a couple of bookshelves here. Excuse the mess up there. A couple of bookshelves here and there, and also I won't glare you with that light. In fact, I'll just put the light off at the moment. Yes, I've also got some books up here. Wild Guides, I definitely recommend them. The Wild Guide books are brilliant, but I've got lots of other books in here, and the Aid Gap guides from the Field Studies Council at the end there are also excellent. And anyone that was in Nick Baker's Insta Lives will recognise this one by Ash, and in you go. And I've just dropped my Echo Dot, so hopefully it's still going to work. Right, so I've also got a fridge here. The fridge is used for basically keeping invertebrates in to get them a bit quiet. And I also have here, I've got a couple of bags. That's my small survey bag, and this is my bigger survey bag here. I've got a little net here, and also that there is actually a silicone dog food bowl, but it collapses and you put it out, and I use it as a sort of bug tray for watering that. This I got the other day. I'm really pleased with it. It's on a stand. It's a bird cage, but I got it for wildlife rescue. I have had a couple of buzzards in over the years, and also 4 tawny owls. Buzzards I do not keep in care. That is way outside my comfort zone. So that would do as a temporary measure just to keep them in. This is my working table. At the moment I'm doing some online workshops, so I've got one coming up next week. Closing date, just so you know, is Wednesday 9 AM to kind of post out what's over there. I post out owl pellet dissection kits. If you check on my link in my bio, you'll see in that it costs £30 for an online workshop, and you get a presentation, Q&A, and dissection kit and some owl pellets to dissect during it. It's a practical workshop. And what else is? Oh yes, and you also get an attendance certificate. So that's what I've been working on there. And over here we've got my wildlife rescue station. So got various bits and pieces in here. That's the one that's got the bank vole in it, that one there. And there is Chonky, the soprano pipistrelle bat. I've just cleaned her out, and I've just realised I forgot to put in another bit of kitchen roll sort of scrunched up for her to hide under. I'll have to do that. Okay, right, thank you, Ethan, for enjoying the live. Say hello to Urena for us. So this is, I'm really pleased with getting this set up. I got this big unit here from a neighbour, and also the tables, and I set up an Amazon Live. I'd been an Amazon wish list rather, and I'd been just using bits and pieces for my wildlife rescue. Anything I could get my hands on, a bit ad hoc. And you can see I've got old hamster cages up there and all sorts. And I like to repurpose things. But I just decided that I really wanted to sort of, I was getting a lot of rescue, and I was known locally as the man to take rescued wildlife to, or injured wildlife to. So I decided to make a wish list, and I couldn't believe it. I put it on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and people just, bought stuff. People I didn't know bought stuff off this wish list and sent it to me. It was absolutely brilliant. So that's the wildlife rescue bit there. And through here we have got the workshop. That's a garage. This is the workshop. That there is, none of that belongs to me. The sort of like tank there, actually a bat, a grounded bat came to me in that, so that's actually gone back. It was actually a pup, so that's gone back to the person that sent that gave me it. But all this, the rest of the stuff, all belongs to the Hoyk sort of denim, and I'm trying to remember where else, Selkirk, I think it is, Red Squirrel group. So there's Red Squirrel traps, live traps, and also feeding stations and other bits and pieces in there. I've set up in here. I'm hoping to be starting to do some in-person workshops in here. So I've got a few seats and a nice sofa. I've also got, this is where I keep my moth trap, and there's one of my camera traps there. And I've also set up a television so that we can watch Netflix while people are bored with my workshops. Oh, only joking. It's for actually playing sort of like presentations on. And I've just put this in. I'm still sorting it out. I've just managed to get hold of this shelving unit. So cheers, Eric. So I've just got some of my skull collection. I've also got quite a lot of stuff that needs a lot of work done in it. I need to get basically clean them up. So the other thing, I've got to put my hat on. This is my bag, my bat's walk bag. That's in case I get a big crowd so that I can talk to them. I do have a dead bat that I show them. I have a licence to keep that. If you've got a European protected species, you need a licence. And I've got in here, got first aid kit, and also Field Studies Council guide. Field Studies Council guides are brilliant. This is a really good one. This one was done in 2001, so it's got 16 species of bat, which at the time there was, just for a couple of years, a few years, 16 species of bat. Greater mouse-eared bat was declared extinct, but then a single male was discovered down south. So this side, you've got the. I'm just wondering what skills have you got? Is that aimed at me? I don't like to talk about my skills because I didn't. Skulls, sorry, skulls. I wondered what that was. Yes, I'll talk about skulls in a second. Then, it also has what the flight pattern is, and also peak frequencies and the frequency range. It's really good. £3.30, and bat detectors. I've got a couple in here. Batbox Duet is quite expensive, about £250 I think at the minute. A lot more than you actually need. I'd always recommend the Magenta Bat 4, about £60-65. There is a Bat 5 which is a digital display there. Unless you've got problems seeing with your eyesight, you need a big digital display. You're paying £30 for not a lot extra. Just nip back to my skulls before we go ahead and look at that. Roe deer, sheep, pig, sheep, fox. Right, this isn't a skull. There's lower jaw bones in there. The upper jaw was destroyed due to a car being hit by a car. Pelvis and some leg bones of a pine marten. And badger, another fox, an owl pellet. Now, that there is common shrew. I have got, just realised it's not here. I'll have to look it out. I've got a water shrew somewhere. I found a water shrew in a pellet the other day. That's a whole load of field voles. A couple of wood mice in there. Brown rat. The talons of a tawny owl and a tawny owl skull. That's actually an ex-rescue. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it's like that. I put a lot of work into it. It was blind in one eye, and I got it back to health. It had been in a car, hit by a car, blind in one eye, and got it back to full health, and it was, you know, it was eating fine and it was flying and all that. I built a little sort of like, you know, a wee mini aviary outside, put a perch in it for it and that, and there's stuff online that says they can manage with only one eye. Well, this one couldn't, because it tried to land on the perch and broke its neck, because obviously it couldn't judge distance. Duck. Right, 2 rabbits, and this one, although the nose is broken off it, I know it's a brown hare, and the reason I know it's a brown hare is because there's white fur with it. But in there, through in the garage, there is actually a box that has got stuff in it. I can't remember exactly what's in it. There's certainly this is still to be cleaned up, and the box is well sealed so to keep any smell in. There's definitely wood pigeon, collared dove, house martin, swallow, sparrow, mole, woodpecker, hedgehog. I can't remember, but there's quite a lot. There's quite a long list. So yes, and that's my winter job. I'm going to do it when it's sort of like cooler and the sort of like there's not as much heat to make the smell go. So just got to go outside. It's actually got quite dark out here now. You won't be able to see in the camera, but the cat's just been up the garden. I just get putting on the bat detector. There it's there. My favourite bat species is probably the noctule, and the reason it's the noctule is because it's a big bat, and I used to have one of the most I used to have the most northerly record for it, halfway up the Scottish borders, going back about nearly 20 years. But now, you know, there's loads a lot further north than that. But yes, it was just it was quite exciting to have the most northerly record of a species. Now, I would be right, that was a soprano pipistrelle flying through. They're normally, I don't know whether it's because it's been wet today. It's dry now, but it has been wet. Whether they're not. There it is. So, soprano pipistrelles are the most common bat you'll find in Scotland. They're not. It's not the common pipistrelle. If you're further south, sorry, I'm just getting distracted because I'm just about to trip over the hook in the grass for the dog that we keep Dexter's lead tied to. He's out the back. Yes, they're. The common pipistrelle is the most common down south, further south, but further north you go, the more common the soprano is, and it becomes the most common bat. About 75% of the pipistrelle bats in Scotland are sopranos, and 25% are common. There is also, I'm just going to pop that detector down. There is also a Nethusiast pipistrelle, but let's forget about that because they're less than 1%. And but further south, about 25% of them are soprano, 75% are common. And as I'm talking to you, I'm actually also shutting up the hens, just before it gets any later. and if it gets very rainy, I'm not going to get all wet. So I'm lucky in that there's a lot of bat activity in this village that I live in. I do bat walks around here. In fact, I did my first live, it was a Facebook live on Saturday, which was a bat walk, and it's still available to re-watch, just over an hour, on My Wildlife Here's Facebook page, if you're on Facebook. And I really enjoyed it, and that's why one of the reasons why I decided to do this live. I know there's a few of us used to watch Nick Baker's lives during lockdown. I came in quite late to them. It took me a while. Kept seeing Nick going live on Instagram. I followed him, but I just wasn't. It took me a while to get up. I don't know, the confidence to actually join it. But it was really worthwhile once I did. Now, we're going back to the workshop here. And this workshop, right up at that apex up there, there's a bat roost. 2 male bats, well, I'm assuming they're male. 2 male bats roost up there during the summer. They won't be roosting up there just now. They'll be roosting singly. Now bats, basically it's breeding time. So I'll turn around. Bats will be breeding, and they'll be mating. The males go out, sing a song, spend the summer usually with another male bat, but they spent the summer with that, with another male bat, because they're social creatures. But this time of year they will split off, their little bachelor pad, go out, sing a song, get in a few females, mate with them. After a few days, chuck them out, go out, sing a song, get some females in, mate with them, and then chuck them out. And that happens over several weeks. But the females aren't pregnant yet. They go away and hibernate, and in the spring the females come out, form bigger maternity roosts, depending on the species, depends the size of the roost. Something like a brown long-eared bat, 40 to 50 is a big roost for them. Common pipistrelle, 300. Soprano pipistrelle, the biggest known roost, is about 3,000 of them. They gather together, and when there's enough food, they decide they're going to become pregnant as en masse, and they'll give birth within a day or so of each other, which is pretty amazing. Just watching it don't bump my head there. What I'm going to do now is let you have a closer look at Chonky. But because we're living in the age of I'm trying to remember whether if someone's asked me a question. I just thought in my head there that somebody asked a question that I hadn't answered. Let's see if I can remember. I'll go back through and see. So I'm going to switch this back on. I'll take off my hat. Right. Oh, that's quite bright. But it's so that you can see. But I think it's probably too bright. Let's take it down a bit. That's better. Right. Because we're living in the age of coronavirus, that means that I don't want to transfer COVID and coronavirus to the wild bat population, the wild mammal population, which means I've got to double glove. I've already prepared. So I've got my normal bat gloves on under here, and then put a pair of latex, they're not latex, other latex, no, they're nitrile gloves over them. And then a mask. I'll try and do this before I steam up. Right, so come here, Chonky. Come here. Right, so whoops. she's a little wriglet. So there is her wing. She's not happy at all. I can tell from the venation on the wing, the veins in the wing, that she's a soprano. You can see her wings are coming out quite well, and this is actually really good because that looks as if, come here. I'm all steaming up now. Come here. Right. I'm going to have to put it back because I've steamed up and I've forgotten to do what I normally do, which is put some what do we call it, washing up liquid on my glasses to stop them steaming up. They're steaming up and I can't actually see what I'm doing with her, so apologies for that, about that. Right, see if I can do it now. Right. Come here, you. The other thing is, it's sort of like you actually normally, you can sometimes, if the bats, yes, they are really nicely healed up, our wings. So that's actually really good news. So there's no reason why this little one should not be flying. So she's not happy at all, but you can see she's not very big. So I'm going to pop her. She's starting to flap a bit. I don't want her, if she is going to fly, I don't want her flying around my office. Much to my wife's, I'll take this off now, much to my wife's sort of, not disgust, she's not disgusted, it's just, she's just more perturbed that I let bats fly around the living room, and I've actually started using the dining room now. So yes, so she's still not flying, but I want to give her when she does a test flight, a couple of test flights, and if she actually flies, then she will be taken back to her release site in Selkirk. So yeah, I actually kind of get into wildlife rehab by accident. I'd had some training years ago with the Scottish Wildlife Trust, sort of basic wildlife first aid, and unfortunately, I don't know whether you can hear, she's actually banging on the, I think she's wanting some mealworms, she's actually banging on the box, so she's just put the kitchen roll, hold on, she's just put the kitchen roll in the wee milk tub of water, and that. So yes, so she's I got taught how to do it, and it's not very nice, but basically it wasn't just about sort of first aid, it was also how to, if an animal was really in a bad way, how to actually deal with it and put out its misery in the most humane manner possible. So I did that, and then over the years I kind of got into known as a person who sort of like, was a wildlife person, and to go to take wildlife to, and then I also started finding wildlife just wherever I went. I would find in that the local village hall had a bat roost in it, and that was sort of like, fair enough, it was my local village hall, I'm into bats anyway, the bats would get stuck in the village hall. But one day I literally went outside my front door and I turned round and there was a bat hanging right next to the front door. The wildlife was actually coming to me. Another time I went out the front door and there was a hedgehog that was quite poorly at the front door. They just sort of kept turning up. But now I've moved. Before I used to live in quite a remote area, sort of a mile and a half from the local village. There's a few houses in a row, but occasionally people would turn up with not always live animals, but occasionally dead animals for me, or poo. That was the other thing. My wife never knew what she was opening the door to. And my wife's now a minister. She got her first charge 3 years ago. We moved to this lovely village, metropolis compared to where we were before, and I've got known as the sort of person to go to. So it's not just sort of like local people, it's local school as well. Back in May, I did 2 wildlife rescues in the same week. I actually did. Included it in my wildlife year, and actually did a few weeks ago did a special my wildlife year video on sort of like special wildlife rescue. When I think it was a blue tit, if I remember right, it probably collided with a window, and also a oyster catcher chick which had fallen off the roof. That actually involved me climbing back up onto the roof, and as I don't like heights, that was quite an experience. But yes, so there's that's kind of now just the door goes and I just never know what's going to be there. The other week there was the doorbell rang at gone 11 o'clock at night, and my wife being a minister, first thing that goes through her head is someone needs the minister, someone's ill or has passed away and they need the local minister. My wife opened the door and then just turned and shouted, "Graham, it's for you," as it was someone standing there with a shoebox with some holes in the top for air. So it was a wood pigeon. Unfortunately that one, it's basically severe damage to his wing. It's never going to fly, and it was just, I had to just do what I had to do, unfortunately, for it. But at least it was, out of pain. So yes, so that's that. The other thing I was going to say, I've mentioned about sounds like the books that I've got up here, the wild guides I mentioned. I can't remember whether I actually mentioned this one specifically. This is the plant gall ones. The one thing I don't like about this is it doesn't. I think this is backwards for you. I don't know whether there's a way to turn it the right way. But the Britain's Plant Galls Wild Guides, photographic guide, is quite a thin book. It is really good if you're into your plant galls. This is a lot of, this time of year, you've got a lot of stuff with so like galls on oaks especially. In fact, so much so that basically the front is split into three sections. The front bit is, there's an introduction, then it's oak galls, galls of other trees, and then herbaceous galls, galls of herbaceous plants. There's a lot of galls. It doesn't cover them all, but it covers the main ones. And this time of year you'll have the different galls. There's sort of like the common spangled gall, the silk button spangled gall. I'm just trying to remember. There's the oak apple gall, the marble gall, the pea gall, I think it is, if I remember right, and the hedgehog gall, and the what's the one? Nopper gall. That's the one that it makes the acorn go all knobbly. Yes, Emma, you're asking, do I ever get local vets involved with any severely injured wildlife? Yes and no. Local vets can be a bit hit and miss. I used to be involved when I lived more over Berwickshire way. I was involved with the Berwick Swan and Wildlife Trust, and they had a local vet who helped set up the trust, who did a lot of wildlife sort of like rescue stuff as well, so I would work closely with him. Over here, vets, some if you just said there's a bat, they'll just go, "Oh no, we can't touch your bat." So more often than not, I'll actually go to rescue centres because I'm sort of like freelance independent rehab, or I don't know what you'd want to call me. I don't have sort of like the backing of an organisation behind me, whereas if I need to, I'll go to a local rescue, wildlife rescue. Sometimes I know my sort of like my sort of like limits. If I've got something and I need sort of like, so like for instance this bat needs some antibiotics, it's got to be a vet that prescribes antibiotics, so I would go and try and convince a vet to prescribe some antibiotics for the bat. Thankfully, Chonky didn't need as much care as that, so that was actually quite good. However, other times I know my limits. I've taken some animals to vets, but more often than not, as I say, it's wildlife rescues. That can either be a local wildlife rescue, or, because I'm in Scotland, the SSPCA, the equivalent of that SPCA. That can be a bit sort of hit and miss as well. I know that some people are a bit they're a bit too they're not interested in certain species and that. I've actually always found them quite good, but it's when it's outside my area of expertise. It's not that I don't trust them. It's actually stresses an animal to be transported. So if they don't need to be transported, if I can look after them, and make them give them nice and keep them nice and calm, and either get them back to health or make their way out this world peacefully, then I would prefer to do that than stress an animal that is in a bad way going to that. You've basically been taught how to assess an animal and know whether it's going to make it or not. If I think there's a chance that it's going to, and it's outside my area, I will get it to a vet or a rescue centre, or it's just too darn big. The 2 buzzards that have come into me, no way. That's just far too big. Both buzzards. One was certainly a car, near miss with a car. It was concussed, and I was actually able to stop my car, get out my car, and literally lift the buzzard into the footwell of my car. And I drove down with it in the footwell. I called my wife before I set off and said, "Get the beef out the freezer, the beef chunks out the freezer." And that was she basically said, "What are you bringing back?" She knew exactly what was happening. The other one was seen getting mobbed by some crows. Now, whether it was a juvenile, whether it was just the crows mobbing it sort of made it sort of crash into the ground, or whether it was quite near a road, whether it was also near miss, but it ended up actually over the River Teviot, hanging onto a branch upside down, dangling. But someone managed to get it, and then they basically contacted me through social media. As I say, I'm known as the local wildlife rescue guy, and I got it in. Basically, I got it calmed down, gave it a bit of food. It did eat, but I still wasn't happy about taking on a buzzard. So again, it went off. That was SSPCA. It went off to. Biggest thing I've ever rescued was a mute swan. Driving to my daughter to a ballet thing about 3 years ago, and I noticed this mute swan sort of in the grass at the side of the road, and I thought, unusual place for it. It's there on the way back. I'm going to check it out. Was still there on the way back. Had some duvets and some pillows in the boot to take to the tip, and hadn't managed to take it yet. So got my daughter to sort of basically make a big sort of nest and sort of pillows at the side and all that. I got out, lifted this swan. It was not aggressive at all, which was a bad sign. It was taking notice of me, but it wasn't reacting to me at all, and that's a really bad sign with wildlife when they don't react to you like that. So I wrapped it, but just to keep it sort of stable in case it had any wing or leg damage, I wrapped it in a duvet, and I wanted to secure it. So the only way I could secure it was actually whip off my belt, tie my belt around it and tighten it, and that, and keep it in. So I got back home, said to my wife, "You want to see what's in the car?" And again she just went, "What is it? Is it alive or dead?" She knows me very well, my wife. I said, "Oh, it's alive." And she came out, and there's this massive big mute swan in the boot. But again, just took it to SSPCA. I was not. They came and collected it. I was not going to take a mute swan, especially when I think it must have been hit by a car. It'd been so near the road, and it'd been so unresponsive and not moving. I mean, it wasn't standing up at all. Its legs were underneath and just there. So I don't know whether there was brakes or that. I wasn't even willing to give it an examination because I didn't want to cause it any basically more injury or pain, and that if it was going to go somewhere where it would be assessed, and and they would be able to look at it. So yeah, so hopefully that answers sort of like some of your questions about sort of getting vets involved. Yes and no is the answer. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. The other thing that I thought would be quite handy to show you is if you follow me on Instagram or any of this sort of like social media, you'll see that I quite often take. They're not the greatest macro. I don't have to use a big camera. What I actually use is either a clip-on macro lens, or my latest little thing is a clip-on macro. It's kind of a microscope-ish. It's got a light source on it, and I'm just trying to think what I can actually show you with it. That's a bit of hedgehog poo. Everyone's got a bit of hedgehog poo surely sitting in their desk, don't you? Now, bear with me. Give me a second. I've just remembered what I had out here. Right. You can look at my bald spot. Right. I'll take the camera down and around. Right. Okay. That there. That was there. I don't know does. That there. I'll let you have a closer look at it. Put this clip on. It's actually bat poo. It's a pipistrelle bat poo, but you can see if I get too close, if there's any light behind it, you have to sort of put a light source, but even then it's a bit, it's really difficult. It's fine during daylight, but sometimes it's not that. So these are really good, don't get me wrong, and I do sort of like, I use these quite a lot. I actually keep one, where'd I put, there's my hat. I actually keep one on my hat. I've got one on my desk as well, I keep there, but this little one I got, those ones there cost about, I think, £4 or £5, something like that. This one here cost a bit more. So I'm going to pop it on. Have I got it? There it is. And it's got a light source, so you can get right in. This is bat poo, but it's not normal looking bat poo, basically because it's chonkies and she's just been eating mealworms. So it's not got bits of stuff in it's a bit bigger, and it's not sort of midge that have been eaten. But they're quite handy little things. So if you're ever fancying sort of like to look at something close up, they're really useful. I've actually used it for I use it for ID and social wasps. I got into ID and social wasps last year during lockdown. I'd always been a bit of a fan of social wasps. Sort of, the job they do of pollination and also as predators. But last year I actually got into IDing them, and I think I got there's 7 species of smaller wasps. There's 9 species of social wasps in total. There's the Asian hornet and the European hornet, and then there's 7 native. The European hornet's obviously native as well to the south, but there's 7 native species, or species that are found and have now either naturalised or native to the UK. So they're quite easy to identify once you actually know what to look for, and I've had 5 out of 7 in my garden last summer. So and I've had German wasps, Vespula germanica, nesting in the front of the house, front of the man's here in Denham. One low down in a grate, and the other one on the other side of the porch, high up. So the one under the grate is actually underneath the floorboards. It was underneath the floorboards, and they were actually coming up into the dining room. Came back from first we knew about it, coming back from holiday, and there was basically lots of dead wasps in the floor. Except I hadn't actually noticed, they were sort of like just dotted about. I never noticed them. It was actually wasps flying about. I noticed one, and I thought I caught it and put it out, and then I noticed another one. By the time I got to my third and fourth one, I'm thinking, hey, there's something up here. I'm not an ecologist for no reason, you know. I notice these things, so I thought, there's something going on. And I went outside, and sure enough, there was a wasp nest underneath and going in this grill, the sort of ventilation grill under the house, and we were coming up. So I had to put lots of masking tape down. Just left them to it, you know. I just sort of stopped them getting into the house. That was only that was the only problem they were causing. So just left them to it. So that's that. I'm sorry. I don't know. I feel I haven't engaged enough maybe with you guys, and so sorry about that. But I do talk a lot. I'm quite a nervous person, and that's my dad just joined. Dad, you're late to the show. I'm nearly done. You're about 55 minutes late. So I'll be putting it on hopefully, if this works, I'll put it on and keep it up on Instagram so that you can watch it again, Dad. So yes, so that's basically this was an introductory one. Don't know whether I'm going to do it again. Don't know how long I'm going to do it. I'd sort of floated the idea of a few others that used to watch Nick Baker's lives. So I don't know whether anyone else wants to do one, or if folk want me to do another one, I'll do another one, because I quite enjoyed this. It was quite nice. I'll think out something different to talk about next time, and maybe get someone to join me in my live. If I work out how you do that, and we can talk. So thanks, Paul. Cheers. Yes. So that's me, and I always say, sort of look at when I run workshops, online workshops, or I do something in person, I always say to people, don't think that this is sort of like, you know, that's it, over and done with. If you have an idea, sort of like a question, just drop me a line. I'm always happy to answer any questions about wildlife. I'm a mammal specialist, but I'm quite a generalist, and also, if I actually don't know the answer to something, I'll usually know someone that does. After sort of spending 25 years in sort of like conservation, I've met a lot of people. So, you know, and it's unusual for me to be, you know, to not know someone that knows the answer, or that knows someone that knows the answer. It might be sort of have to go into a second person, but I usually can get an answer to most things fairly sharpish. So yes, so that's that, and I've really enjoyed this. So I'm going to say good night and go and get some things. Yeah, Meryl, it was nice to see some familiar names. Sorry I haven't been able to say hello to everyone. I've just been sort of trying to concentrate. This is taking me outside my comfort zone. It's funny, I can do a talk to, I've done bat walks and talks to loads of sort of like people in sort of loads of groups, 200 people at a bat walk, sort of standing on top of a park bench and shouting out and doing a bat walk. Personally, I don't think that's a very sort of like great experience for people, but they do seem to enjoy it. But put me in front of a camera and I get quite nervous, and so the My Wildlife Year project and this has taken me way outside my comfort zone. But I think it's important to sort of push yourself. So yes, so this will be available hopefully on Instagram, as long as I don't delete it somehow, please. I'm still getting to grips with the technology. So really enjoyed this, and thanks for the little feedback that I've had so far, and I'll maybe see you again sometime soonish. Right, cheers, take care, stay safe, and enjoy the wildlife. Right, bye.